Okay, it's the end of the session. I am here with Ghost. Ghost is actually behind the camera. He's directing the shot. Now, Ghost is chewing a collagen stick from our buddies over at Barkworthy's. This is Ghost's Roadmap to Success. Ghost was adopted about a week ago, so he's still kind of figuring things out. He is pretty twitchy, pretty anxious. I could instantly tell that he had a lot of cortisol in his blood. He's very jittery or jumpy. His pupils are dilated. His ears were flipped back. He was stiff. He had what we call efficiency of movement. He's snapping his head around. Those are all indications of cortisol, the stress hormone. That goes into your blood. It accelerates your breathing. It kind of shuts down or slows down non-essential body functions. So your dog, he wouldn't take treats that are on the ground. As he became more comfortable, he was able to take those treats. So cortisol gives us that sixth sense, and it helps us for fight or flight. And it's helpful in a short situation if somebody's going to mug you so you can run away from them, or you're getting chased by an animal, you can run away or whatever it is. But it's not healthy to be that in a long period of time. And humans that are in that sort of situation can develop PTSD. Dogs can also have a similar phenomenon happen to them. And so it can take up to 3 days for the cortisol to be released from the blood. Now, right now, he's only been in the house for about a week. There's the 3 threes when you adopt a dog: 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. Usually you're not seeing their true personality until they're 3 months. So he's still in an adjustment period. This may mellow him out a little bit, but he left a home that had a young child that was 4 because they got a Corgi. And 4-year-old children and Corgis do not go along. Corgis are designed to stop things from running around. So I'm sure the dog was probably nipping the child, which is what he is bred to do, but the humans didn't want it. And they got a dog probably because of the way that he looked, not recognizing his breed characteristics. So I'm guessing that he did not go to puppy classes because of how nervous he is around me when I arrived. Now, the guardians can do things to help with that. Like I mentioned, that they might want to go to find a park. Now, we went over marker words and using a clicker. I like to use a clicker for click for looks. And actually the video, the write-up above this is going to be a version of that with a dog that I worked with yesterday named Rufus. Rufus is a standard poodle that is also barky at people that come up and talk to him. A little bit of a different scenario. But what I would do for Ghost here is find that nice park that has a windy road that people walk or jog their dogs down. And then it has a lot of grass area around it. So I use the sit as my indicator of how comfortable a dog is. If a dog won't sit, he's probably saying I'm not comfortable enough to put myself at a disadvantage. Sitting is a little bit of a strategic disadvantage for dogs because it takes them one move just to get into a run. So I ask the dog to sit as a test. If the dog will not sit, then the dog's way of saying, I don't feel comfortable sitting this close to something. So I would maybe start off about 15 feet away from the path. And when somebody's walking on it, and ask Ghost to sit. If Ghost will not sit, walk 5 more feet away, ask him to sit. Only ask him one time. If he doesn't sit, he's not being disobedient. He's saying, I don't feel comfortable. Keep increasing by 5 feet distances until you find a distance where he can sit while people pass by. Now, I usually don't like to have dogs sitting during this exercise. I just use that as my indicator to see if he's comfortable. And then basically what you want to do is just kind of be wandering around about 25 feet or however the distance is when people start walking on the path. And as soon as if I'm Ghost and the camera is the person, I'm kind of like wander around, I see somebody, click, and then I turn away, and the click's coming from here. So I look at the person, I hear the click from my guardian who's sitting here. That causes me to turn and look at the clicker, and then treat comes down. What we're saying is if Ghost looks at a stranger, we click to let him know we like that, and he gets a treat. Now, we can eventually get to the point where we're walking closer and closer. So if this is the path, the person's walking, and this is us with Ghost, we can kind of gradually start walking in a triangle. This is not to scale, but it might be very progressive. And you don't want to do it too quickly. We don't want to practice to failure, as I like to call it. A lot of people practice until the dog freaks out. Get closer and closer until the dog freaks out. We want to have the practice where Ghost does not freak out the whole time, because we manage the situation for him, so he never gets so close to somebody that he needs. When he barks, he's saying, I disagree, or I feel uncomfortable, and I want you to go away, because what he wants is more distance between us. Well, if we manage the situation and increase the distance for him, he doesn't have to bark. And for this exercise, it's really a counter-conditioning desensitization exercise. What we want him to do is practice being around people without barking and having positive things happen. Now, let's say you're out walking somewhere and he passes somebody and he normally would bark and he doesn't. You don't have to even click, just give him a treat. And if he's in a really bad situation where you can't get as far away, but you can give him treats and he'll take them, there's nothing wrong with just giving him treats to keep him from barking at someone if you can. But again, if they get too close, that cortisol is going to kick in. He's probably going to lose his appetite. So the idea is for you to manage the situation. If you're walking like the neighborhood and you know somebody's walking towards you and the buildings and the cars are close together and it creates like a pinch point where you have to be really close, stop. Let those people pass that pinch point first, and then you walk through. If you're walking down the sidewalk and you see somebody's walking towards you, and you know Ghost is going to bark at them when they pass because he needs at least 7 feet. Walk up the steps towards somebody's house. Walk down somebody's driveway. Walk in the street if you can, and walk around a car. Sometimes you can use your environment to block his sight of them. The more that you manage the situation, the less he needs to bark to make things go away. And the more he barks, he's practicing barking. The more he doesn't bark on walks, as abstract as that sounds, he's not consciously aware of it, but the less he's practicing barking on walks or at home or whatever the case may be. So if you can find that park and try to do this maybe 2 or 3 times a week in short, like 10-minute practice session, 15-minute practice session, you can maybe do a half an hour, but if I do a half an hour, I would do maybe like 5 or 10 minutes where we're close to the path, then I'd walk really far away and give him about 5 or 10 minutes just to relax and be far enough away and recharge his battery, regain his composure, then walk back. And keep note of how close and far you are. Now, the other dogs are going to impact it, or the other people. If you get somebody that's walking by very casual, he might be able to get closer. You get somebody who's running, or a skateboard, he might need to be further away. Detachable items are also hard for dogs, and so if you just sit on one more cushion over, it won't slant quite so much, and you won't have the roll down effect. If somebody, like detachable items like hats, gloves, glasses, but also like walkers, wheelchairs, strollers, canes, those detachable items sometimes throw dogs as well. So if you see somebody coming down with those and you know he always reacts to strollers, you just walk 5 more feet away from the path. And then you see somebody walking by casually, a couple lovers holding hands, walking very nice, you might be able to walk 5 feet closer. So you manage the situation and just be mindful of them. We talked about dog body language. So when I look at a dog, first of all, I look at their head. Is their nose up or down? Up is proud and confident, and down it can be insecure. Is the mouth open or closed? Normally dogs have an open mouth and they're what I call wiggly and jiggly. So if Ghost is like, that's a big warning. So he got less wiggly and jiggly, he got stiff, he closed his mouth, and he turned and he did a hard stare. That's a big warning before he barks. So if you see that and immediately move him further away, then he doesn't have to bark. So that's what, so learning to read his body language. I also look at his ears. If he flips his ears back, he's probably also not comfortable as well. So then I look at his body posture, or his body. Is he breathing heavy, stress, or is he holding his breath? Could also be stress, or is he breathing normally? Then his lean. At times when I was offering treats out of my hand, he would lean towards it and then want to run away. If he's leaning one way or the other, another indication he feels uncomfortable. If you see his tail, he's a Corgi, he doesn't have a big one, but if you see that tuft going up, that could also mean I'm alerting or I'm, in an aroused state. So the idea is to start to watch your dog's body language, and then you recognize the signals that he gives before he starts to bark, and you increase the distance or create a situation where you feel comfortable. Then he doesn't have to bark, and the less he barks, the less he's practicing barking. And eventually he will bark less and less. Now, I did talk to the guardians about fluoxetine. He is pretty stressed out. I think the Joggy Prozac would be helpful for him. He's pretty young. I usually don't like recommending it for puppies this young, but as anxious as he was, I think it will really help. Talk to your vet. I'm not a veterinary behaviorist, so I can't prescribe it, but I think in his case, it would be beneficial. I'm guessing they'll probably start him off at 20 milligrams, but that's for your vet to decide, not for me, but he's a little dog, maybe even 10. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for that to kick in, and you need to be very regimented. You listen to your vet, you follow your vet instructions, you do not wean them off yourself, you do not skip doses. You need to be very, very on board with what, and work with your vet about it. Make sure you're saying, hey, it's been 6 weeks, we're not seeing that much of a difference. Do you think we can adjust it? Your vet might want to adjust the meds up or down. But it really is like a dimmer switch. I prefer that over other medications we can give dogs, because a lot of times those make the dogs a little bit dopey. All right, so we also want to make sure that that we are providing him with good, clear communication. So we went over marker words using a clicker and the marker and the word yes. Now, by the time you guys see this video, you should be done. If you're not, you need to load each one of those exercises. So that's each 6 different occurrences for the clicker, 6 for the yes. Yes, treat, take a couple steps away, yes, treat. Do that for about 12 to 20 treats, and then wait about 15 more minutes, and then do it again with yes or with the clicker. So by the time you guys watch this, hopefully you've done this. So do this 2 or 3 times today each, and then 2 or 3 times a day. Tomorrow you should be done. Then when he hears the yes or click, he knows that means I did something good. I'm about to get a treat. Now we went over hand targeting. So if I don't have it linked on this one, mention it to me, and I can link it in your write-up above a training video for how to do that. The Guardians were able. I wasn't able to work with them directly, so I coached the Guardians up, and you did a great job with that one. That's where we can also use that to teach him to ring a bell. So once he gets used to it, you say boop, and he touches his nose to your hand. Then you can hold out a bell. He looks at it, say yes, and give him a treat. Hold it out, yes, get a treat. Do that about 5 or 10 times. Then hold it out, and then wait for him to lean towards it and say yes, and then give him a treat. And eventually you hold it out and he touches his nose, yes, and then we give him a treat. And you want to keep, and then you can even say boop and hold it out, and he touches his nose, and you give him a treat. Then eventually you can hang those bells from your door or next to your door, and then you go over there and it's hanging, but I hold it up and say boop, and he touches it, yes, and give him a treat. Boop. Do that about 10 or 15 times, and then leave it hanging there. The first time you hear that jingle, immediately go over there and take him outside. So you might want to put since the video above is on how to put the harness on, I would practice that video exercise 2 or 3 times a day. So just putting the harnesses is a normal thing that is not always associated with us going outside. Right now he gets excited, I think, because it means we're going outside. So if you practice that without going outside, then he just gets used to it. And remember, don't let him chew on it. So if you put it on him, if you have to give him a whole bunch of treats while he's wearing it inside, that's great. That's fine. At first it's maybe treat every second, then eventually treat every 2 seconds, then every 3 seconds. We want to deliver the treats faster than he can start nibbling on it. Because if he nibbles and then you give him a treat, then I'm getting a treat for nibbling on it. But eventually it gets to the point where you put it on him and you're holding a treat and he's like, for 10 seconds, then you give him that treat. But what is he doing? He's practicing wearing it, not nibbling on it. And when you come back from walks, you might want to leave it on him for a while so he gets kind of more used to it. You want to get to the point where you can put the harness on him pretty quickly, or he's wearing it so that when he does go ring that doorbell, the first week when you're doing the doorbell, when he's nudging it, you got to immediately take him outside. So as soon as he nudges it, yes, go attach the leash and take him outside right away. So that way he's letting his guardians know that he has to potty. We also talked about potty training. So remember, we don't want to say potty, 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 because he doesn't know what that means. So take him outside right after he wakes up, 3 minutes after he eats, and about once an hour. Watch him the whole time. If you see him doing circles or sniffing in circles or sniffing figure eights on the ground, or you see his butthole perk up a little bit, then you know he's going to potty. When he gets done pottying, say yes. Always have a treat with you. Say yes when he gets done and put that treat in his mouth. We want him to think this potty stuff is valuable. If I put it outside, I get a reward. If I do it inside, nothing happens. No punishment, no corrections. We might slap the wall to stop him in the middle of it, to distract him a little bit. Don't start him too much, and then immediately take him outside if you interrupt in the middle of it. But just being more proactive, he's in the right place, right time is the best way to go. Now, once you can recognize he's about to potty, then we would say the cue. Remember, we don't say the cue unless we're 90% certain. When we say the cue, the dog does the action. So you see that butthole puckering up, he's starting to get into position, potty, and then he kind of gets in position, drops the dog, and then you say yes and give him that treat. And so, and after a while you start recognizing that, and then eventually when he figures all this out, I can ring the doorbell to go outside, and if I go outside and I make a potty, I get a reward. So then he kind of can let you know that he has to potty instead of having accidents in the kitchen like he did earlier. Okay, we also talked about teaching him manners. So right now he kind of nudges and pushes and paws at his guardians when he wants attention. He's also starting to do a little bit of demand barking. And so that's kind of a little bit of a petulance. So I like to teach dogs manners, i.e. to sit to ask for attention. He does know how to sit. Don't do this unless your dog knows how to sit. So if he nudges me, he's saying, give me some attention, darn it. He's a cutie. I can pet him for that, of course, but then I'm kind of rewarding a behavior that's not as polite as I'd like. So if he nudges me, I tell him to sit one time. If he sits, I say yes, his marker word. I pet him under his chin or his chest. He really seems like he's on his chest. And then I pet him. He's getting what he wants. If I say sit after he nudges me and he does not sit, I just go back to writing a song, watching TV, checking my emails, making a phone call, whatever it is. I'm going back to what I'm doing. I'm not telling the dog no. I'm not punishing, chastising. The dog's just not getting what it wants. But when you say yes or sit and he sits and you say yes and pet him, after a while he's going to figure out, so if I want attention, I should just go sit in front of you to prepay for the attention. And when he does, make sure you pet him for that. Say yes, then pet him. Now the flip side of that, and the watchword for that one, remember, is manners. So now remember, it's never wrong to pet your dog. But if you pet your dog right after it does something, you're rewarding whatever that was. Be mindful of, is that something I want to reward my dog for? Now the flip side of that, so I say manners. So if somebody, let's say that I'm friends with Ghost and Ghost comes up here, he's nudging me, and I start petting him, my guardian or my partner says, manners, I would say, oh, I'm accidentally petting Ghost when I don't mean to. So I stop petting him and say, sit. If he sits, I say yes and pet him on his chest. If he doesn't say sit, then I stop petting him. So that'll help us get out of a habit of rewarding the unwanted behaviors. Remember, all attention from humans is rewarding and validating. So if we are giving him attention for barking, jumping up, nudging us, he's going to continue doing those things to ask for attention. Now that's where celebrating comes in. So celebrating is rewarding the dog when it voluntarily offers the behavior you want. So let's say we want to teach our dog that happy hour means to drink my water. Well, what I do is I wait for the dog to go over there and drink water on his own. When I hear the lap, lap, lap of water, then I get ready, and when he gets done, I say yes, and I scratch him on his butt, or I give him a treat. And after a while, I was like, boy, my humans really like it when I drink water. They reward me every time I get done drinking water, and I know that that's why they're rewarding, because they say yes at the end of it. So after a while, when I'm playing a video game and the water bowl's over there, I see Ghost is walking towards it, I know he's gonna drink water. So I say happy hour, I sneak the cue in before the action. Happy hour, he starts drinking water. He was gonna drink it anyways. When I get done, I say yes, and I give him a pet or a treat. After a while, you say happy hour, he goes and drinks it. So I want you to get into a habit of celebrating the desired behaviors that he offers. The easy ones are sits, laying down, coming to you, and eye contact. Potty also should be one that you do outside as well. But he was stretching. I taught one of my dogs to stretch that way. Every time he stretched, I said yes and petted him. After a while, I would say stretch. Right before he started to do it, I gave him a stretch 10 times in a row. Grumbling, grabbing a toy. So every time he grabs the toy, I say snag right before my dog grabs it. So snag, that means go grab a toy. That's a great activity to teach your dog if your dog likes to bark a lot, because it's what we call an incompatible behavior. I can't hold something in my mouth and bark at the same time. So and it also, for a lot of dogs, when they're anxious, chewing on things helps them feel relaxed and comfortable. You might want to order BarkBox. BarkBox is a $25 subscription, and they'll send you 3 toys. Now, I don't mind my dogs having toys that they destroy as long as they don't chew and eat the destructive stuff. But BarkBox will have like 3 squeaky toys. My dog runs around and squeaks the toy. So the squeaking takes the place of his bark. I don't really like the squeaking, but I like it a lot better than a bark. And if he destroys the toy and doesn't eat it up, that's fine. When it gets destroyed, pull it up and put it away. You get 3 of them a month for $25. It's a good deal. Gives them distractions, something to do. Let me see. We also went over creative forms of exercise. Get a snuffle mat. The one I like is the Runda, R-H-U-N-D-A. It actually has a band around it. It looks different than the one in the video that I showed you, and so all the tassels are going up. So each time I feed him, I flip it over, so all the tassels are hanging down, and I flip it back up, and I take my scoop, and I waterfall. So the tassels are up, so the kernels fall in between the tassels. He's got to use his nose to look for them. That makes feeding him like exercise. I'd also get the Omega Paw Tricky Trainer Treat Ball, probably the medium or the large for him. $3 to $5. Fill that up with kibble, let him roll it around, and the first couple times you'll have to roll it for him until kibble comes out, and eventually he'll figure it out. Now be careful, a lot of dogs, when it gets almost empty, they will rip it open to see why it stopped paying off, so when you get the last couple pieces, pick it up and put it up. Don't leave food out, but we do feed him at least twice a day. I feed my dogs 3 times a day, but right now the guards only feed him once a day. We like to feed him really more breakfast than dinner, and I would probably feed him, right after when you guys get up and make your breakfast, and then about 8 hours after that. So maybe you're getting up at like 8 o'clock, you're feeding him at 8:30, and then maybe he's getting fed at 5:30, 6:30, somewhere in that time frame. And then once he walks away from the bowl, pick up the bowl, dump it empty, put the empty bowl back down, so he doesn't get any more food till the next meal, unless he has dietary issues. But we want to kind of have him eating when we tell him to eat. Not because we're controlling him, because he's an insecure dog. I think for insecure dogs, the more rules and structure we have, a little bit more secure they feel in the guardians providing me a safe environment. We also can do the cookie in the corner game. Google a couple of other scent games, and so you can do those throughout the day. Remember, sniffing burns more energy on a walk, so take him to that park or places where you can do a lot of sniffing, and let him sniff as long as it's safe to do so. Try not to pull him away from things unless you have to. So the idea with exercise, we want to give him some exercise or mental stimulation about every 2 to 4 hours. Training is a great way to burn energy as well. 2 to 3 minute training sessions always end on a positive repetition so that he remembers, oh, we had fun the last time we did that. And if you can, take him for a short walk or play with him after training sessions to make it a little bit of a dessert, for lack of a better word. So if we can train him maybe twice a day, 2 3 minute training sessions, one for you, one for you. We feed him out of the snuffle mat and the Paw Tricky Trainer treat ball, and we play cookie in the corner. That's 5 forms of exercise we get with really not making a lot of changes to our life, and we still walk him maybe twice a day for a good walk. Maybe one of the walks is to go to that park where we're doing the click for looks that I talked about earlier. The other walk is just for him to enjoy and sniff. Great. And if he doesn't sniff, do the find it on grass with treats. So get him sniffing the ground. We want him sniffing the ground. If he's not sniffing, he's looking for the boogeyman. I want him looking for the treats. And so now sniffing is relaxing, comforting, it drains energy, and it's going to make him a lot more comfortable. He looks a lot more comfortable now. He's really enjoying the collagen stick from Barkworthy's. He's destroyed little pieces of it all over the couch. He will eat all those little bits. You can scoop those up and put them down elsewhere. But again, I would go to Barkworthy's, or their sister company is bestbully.com, and order a bunch of bully sticks, or bully bites for him would work. For bully sticks, I like to get the odor-free ones. They're more expensive, but you'll appreciate that. But that way, if you have those there, you can give those to when guests come over. And also remember to get that lick mat. It's just put the peanut butter on it. Get him used to licking that when it's the 3 of you guys. Then when a guest comes over, put it off to the side and put a little dog bed next to it so he can lay down on the floor and lick that and release those endorphins. And again, if possible, try to have visits be short visits. Meet outside. I would go out, I haven't gone out through this door, but go out through the less busy door, put a treat trail all the way to the back. So you want to basically have him get a whole bunch of treats. At first, the treats are about 1 foot apart, then 2 feet apart. And then when you go out to the behind the building, you take a left. Have the person sitting down. So I want the dog to approach me from this angle or this angle, not front facing. Front facing is confrontational. Tell your guest to be passive. Don't reach for him. Don't talk to him. Don't look him in the eyes. So let him come up and sniff them. And if I'm the guest, you can give the guest the treats, maybe on the treat pouch. So then basically when Ghost is over here, I might hold my hand out flat with a treat here, and Ghost licks my hand, takes it. I'm not saying sit or do anything. I'm just giving the treat. And when you have the guest come inside, if Ghost is start barking up, have him throw the treat behind him. So that area over there by your dinner table would work great. So I can throw treats in between, try to get Ghost to come closer. But if Ghost barks, they should throw the treat behind him. So Ghost moves away, because what does he want? He wants more distance. So remember, don't disagree with him or correct him if he's barking or growling. Don't ever ask a dog who's barking or growling to sit down. That's his way of saying, I don't feel comfortable. If you make me sit, if you're successful, you'll force me to feel trapped. I don't want him to feel trapped. I want him to feel that I should either go grab something in my mouth to snag, so I'm chewing on that, or I'm going to move away. And if I move away, my parents are happy, and they give me a treat, because I manage the situation like a big dog. Good boy. And try to avoid saying good boy like we talked about, and just use that marker word instead. The marker word needs to come the instant he does it or within 2 seconds afterwards. And if you're doing it outside, I would use the clicker for the click for looks and stuff like that. And when you're on a walk, every time he looks at you, click or say yes and hold the treat out. So the more that he's checking in with you, that's celebrating check-ins. That also helps him not look for the boogeyman. Try to avoid walking we're on a busy street here. We're going to try to avoid walking by. I think that's going to be really triggering for him. I know it's not convenient to drive him in the car, but it'll be much better for him until he gets a little bit more relaxed. Now, if you guys want to continue working on the stuff we worked on, I'd like to wait about 4 to 6 weeks so the Prozac can kick in. And then we can work on some other stuff. And if you do want to work on, you did mention some training classes, I think it'd be more beneficial if you trained him here. So message me if you want to learn to teach him how to do a play bow or the middle or hurricane. Or we've got a whole bunch of little training videos I'm happy to share with you. You can do it from your home. All right, let's see if I can do this. This is Ghost, and this is Ghost Roadmap to Success. Am I still back in the camera? We got a little adjustment, just a tiny adjustment. All right, well, this is Ghost Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.